Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping into something a lot of people have definitely been waiting for, the launch of the new Nintendo Switch 2.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we're not just looking at spec sheets or press releases. No, we're actually unpacking a real-world experience.
Okay.
It's from a YouTube video transcript,
Yeah.
someone who was actually there for a midnight launch. We're following their whole journey, what they bought, those first, hands-on feelings.
Gotcha. So this is like getting the story straight from someone who lived it launch day one.
Exactly.
Our mission here is to pull out the key insights, maybe some surprising details from your shared source material, help you understand what that initial buzz felt like, and what really stood out about the console from this boots-on-the-ground view. Let's get into it.
Okay, so this midnight mission. Our source, interestingly, was actually on vacation, Miami Beach,
Wow, okay.
but still decided, nope, got to hit the midnight launch, said it was part of the experience.
On vacation. I mean, that dedication alone tells you something about the hype, right?
For sure.
So what was the scene like at the store?
Well, they described lining up at a Best Buy, and the atmosphere was specific. They mentioned the heat in the parking garage,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty memorably, the distinct smell of pure weed in the air.
Okay, quite the sensory details there. So they're waiting in line. Did they say how they let people in?
Yeah, they mentioned doing it by batches,
Right.
and our source said they felt a bit delirious,
Yeah.
way past bedtime,
Understandable.
but just buzzing with excitement. It really captures that kind of chaotic, high-energy vibe of a big hardware launch night.
Totally. Okay, so they soaked that all in, finally got inside. What was on the shopping list? What did they actually walk away with?
Well, they started browsing the accessories, looked at some of the, let's say, more out there options, like something they called a Mario Jamboree TV
Okay.
and some wheels, probably steering wheel things.
Right, attachments.
Yeah. They also thought about extra Joy-Cons, but held off on those for now.
Okay, so what did make the cut? The essentials.
The main things were a Pro controller, a charging grip for the Joy-Cons, and a carrying case.
Right, the essentials.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the source had some specific thoughts about those accessories, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Initially, they were pretty surprised. I thought it was kind of crazy, was their phrase that Best Buy didn't seem to have screen protectors right there.
Huh. Which turned out to be interesting later, right?
Exactly, because they found out later that a screen protector actually comes in the console box.
Ah, okay.
So, one of those little discoveries you make on launch day itself, information is still flowing.
And what about the charging grip they bought versus the one that comes standard?
Yeah, that was another detail they noticed. The console itself includes like a basic plastic grip thing.
Right, just to hold them together.
Yeah, but the one they bought is specifically a charging grip. It has a USB port, so you can power up the Joy-Cons while they're in the grip. They pointed out that difference, the USB port.
Gotcha. And it sounds like protecting that screen was a big deal for them, like immediately. Why was that?
Well, as soon as they saw the screen, they immediately thought of the OLED Switch.
Ah, right, which scratches easily.
Yeah, notoriously so. So their instinct was, need protection now. Maybe learn from past experience, or maybe just looking at the new screen. It felt necessary right away.
Makes sense. And they got a little bonus, too.
Oh, yeah, a Best Buy exclusive coin.
Yeah.
Those little retail extras, they add to the fun of the launch event.
They definitely do. Okay, so purchases are made. They head back to the hotel. But interesting choice. They didn't just stay up all night playing.
No, they didn't. Noted it was already 1 a.m., past their bedtime.
Right.
Joked maybe it was them getting older, but they actually chose sleep.
Right.
Wanted to appreciate the console fresh in the morning, which honestly sounds pretty practical.
Very wise. Okay, so the next day comes, the unboxing. What were those first physical impressions, starting with the box itself?
Okay, so they got the Mario Kart bundle,
Mm.
and they found it a little weird that the box just had a sticker saying the game code was inside.
Instead of printed art.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Unlike other boxes they'd apparently seen. Just a small thing, but noticeable if you're used to Nintendo's usual packaging flair.
True. What about the console itself, taking it out?
First thing,
Yeah.
that new plastic smell, the one.
Oh, yeah.
And size-wise, the first reaction was, this is a big boy.
Okay.
But then quickly followed up with, but it's thin too. So it sounds like it has presence, but isn't necessarily clunky.
And the Joy-Cons. Sounds like they've changed quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely bigger than the old ones. Our source really highlighted the feel, the tactile part, mentioned a satisfying click sound from the bumpers and the back release buttons.
Little things, but they add up to the overall feel.
Totally.
What else was in the box? Standard stuff.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Confirmed the Mario Kart download code was there, a high-speed HDMI cable, those little rails that slide onto the Joy-Cons, they call them the little bumpy parts,
Uh-huh. Okay.
and the powder brick. They did appreciate the power cable being USB-C to USB-C. Makes it easy to replace if you lose it or it breaks.
Good point. And the dock. Any changes there?
The dock, they called it a hefty boy.
Hefty boy. Okay.
Notice more ventilation, even speculated there might be a fan inside now.
Hmm.
And getting to the ports on the back, Ethernet, HDMI,
Yeah.
power, apparently took a little force to pop the cover open.
So quite a few tweaks to the hardware compared to the original. All right, everything's unboxed. Next up, setup.
Right. Got it hooked up to the TV.
Yeah.
And as you expect with brand new hardware,
Update time.
yep, needed to install a system update right away.
Standard procedure. Then they started poking around the interface. Any new features stand out. Those mouse controls seemed interesting.
Yeah, they did. They
Yeah.
showed how you can attach the Joy-Cons to something flat and use them like a mouse right on the home menu.
Okay, how did that work?
Well, that's where they seemed a bit confused about its use right now. They saw a note about incompatible software, and they were surprised there wasn't a web browser. So what can you actually use the mouse pointer on at the moment? Seemed limited.
That's interesting, that incompatible software note. Thinking about it, why include that feature? Any ideas on what that might mean for the future?
Yeah, it's a good question the source brings up without directly asking. I mean, console interfaces often limit pointer stuff, right? Maybe for security, maybe performance.
True.
So incompatible software probably just means, most existing games aren't built to use a mouse pointer on the home screen. It really feels like a feature waiting for its moment.
Like for future games or apps.
Exactly. Maybe accessibility stuff, certain game types like strategy games, or maybe even app and Nintendo hasn't announced yet.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those wait-and-see features in terms of its real value.
Potential not quite unlocked yet. Got it. How about just attaching and detaching the Joy-Cons from the main unit? Was that smooth?
Seems straightforward. Just press a button, they slide off the rails. They felt the connection was pretty sturdy when clicked in.
And comparing the look and feel of the new Joy-Cons to the old ones.
They felt the new ones looked sleeker, less like a toy was the comparison. They did mention hoping for more color options down the line, though.
Fair enough. Let's talk about the eShop. Any improvements there?
Big ones, apparently. Described it as super smooth.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, much better than the old one. Confirmed all the Switch 1 games are still listed, but they were disappointed there are still no themes beyond basic black or white. Found the white option blinding.
Huh. Yeah, the theme situation is a long-running complaint. So better performance, same lack of customization. Now, the big moment, putting in an actual game, they used a physical Switch 1 cart, right? Pokemon
It's
Scarlet?
Pokemon Scarlet version 4.0. They noted the cartridge slot opens a bit differently, feels a lot more premium.
Okay, and this is where they noticed something really surprising. A key takeaway.
Absolutely, this was kind of stunning. Their claim was that Pokemon Scarlet was running at, get this, 60 FPS on the TV.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, out the box. They sounded genuinely confused and surprised, like a massive performance jump instantly. No patches, no settings changed.
Wow. That is huge. Pokemon Scarlet was notorious for its performance issues on the old Switch. How could it improve that much, just like that?
It really suggests the new hardware is just significantly beefier, powerful enough to maybe unlock frame rates that were always intended, but couldn't be hit consistently on the old system.
So the game was maybe capable of more, but the original Switch held it back.
That's one strong possibility. The Switch 2's power lets it run closer to its potential, even without a specific Switch 2 patch. It really shows backward compatibility isn't just about if it plays old games, but how well. Could be a game changer for the back catalog.
That's a really compelling early sign for the Switch 2. Did they mention other performance upgrades? Paid ones, maybe?
They did touch on that, referenced some Mario games getting 60 FPS patches specifically, and notably for Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo's apparently charging $10 for an upgrade patch.
Ah, okay. What does the patch add?
It includes 4K resolution, 60 FPS, and some other content. So it looks like a mix. Some games might get a free boost just from the hardware. Others will need a paid patch for the full next-gen treatment.
Okay, so the backward compatibility story is a bit nuanced. Automatic boosts for some, paid upgrades for others. But that potential for better performance on games you already own is clearly a major point from this launch day dive.
It really is. It seemed like the most unexpected, tangible sign of the new console's power they encountered right off the bat.
So wrapping things up then, after the midnight launch, the unboxing, the first play, What was their overall gut feeling?
Pretty straightforward summary of the console itself. It's the Switch 2. It's the Switch, but better.
Can't argue with that clarity.
But they immediately followed up with the crucial point. What really matters long-term is the games.
Always comes back to the games. And what was their take on the game situation right now, at launch?
They felt there was a limited number of new original to Switch 2 games beyond the bundled Mario Kart, which, based on everything else,
Probably Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, just running better.
seems likely, yeah. Not a brand new title. Their main experience so far was seeing those performance bumps on older games, like Pokemon.
And they circled back to those mouse controls briefly, too.
Yeah, just expressing hope again that future games will actually use them well. Mentioned hearing about a wheelchair game as an example of where it might fit, even if it wasn't for them personally.
Right, reinforcing that idea. The hardware's here, now we need the software to catch up and use it.
Exactly.
And their final thought, what are they really waiting for?
Simply put, what's next? Specifically, the actual games built for Switch 2. So yeah, this whole deep dive into one person's launch day really captures that initial buzz, the hardware tweaks, bigger Joy-Cons, better dock, smoother interface, and especially that surprising performance boost on old games. But it definitely leaves everyone, including our source, really just waiting for the new software that's going to define this thing.
Which brings us back to you, the listener, and this source material you shared with us. Hearing this account, which focused so much on the hardware feel and those, unexpected boosts to older games, while still looking ahead for brand new stuff, it makes you think, doesn't it? It raises that question for you. How much do those backward compatibility performance upgrades matter compared to totally new game experiences when you're deciding the value of a new console generation?
Definitely something to chew on as the Switch 2 finds its footing.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into a real-world Switch 2 launch experience.